Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the podcast, Control or Be Controlled, the podcast that helps you start thinking differently and take control of your life. Today's guest is Arky Jones, the creator of Personality Peak, a platform dedicated to helping people understand themselves on a deeper level through personality insights, self-awareness, and personal growth. Arky combines personality frameworks with Stoic principles to help people move from confusion to clarity, understanding not just who they are, but why they think, feel, and behave the way they do. His work focuses on turning self-awareness into real-life change and helping people gain control over their mindsets, emotions, and decisions. Aki, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thanks, Darlington.
Thank you very much, Aki. So before we get into it, can you please introduce yourself to my listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Arky Jones. I've been a author for many years. I've published a book on Stoicism, applied Stoicism, a couple of self-help books and some dystopian novels. But more than that, I've always been an adventurer. I've always been someone that sought opportunity from as a way almost as self-soothing, because I was never handed a silver spoon. I left home at 16 through no choice of my own and had to make my own way in life. So I guess who am I is a big question, but who I want to be is someone who strives to improve themselves every single day.
Thank you very much, Aki. So I have a lot of questions here for you, and I'm sure that my listeners would also like to get answers to these questions. So let's get into it. What sparked your interest in personality and self-awareness? And how did that lead you to creating Personality Peak?
So I've often struggled with the concept of the self. Who am I? What is my place in this world? And I've used a lot of personality quizzes in the past. They have been something that definitely offered an initial framework, but I was a bit like, okay, what now? What next? What does this mean? And the problem with that is that it didn't really give anything more than, okay, that's nice, move on to the next thing. What I wanted is to actually acknowledge that personality is an ongoing journey. From the moment that you're born until the time that you die, life is an opportunity to learn, to grow. And one of the biggest part of that is the concept of the self. Now, the self, think about it like this. Are you the same person around your mum that you are around your friends? Are you the same person around your boss as you are your wife? Probably not. And that itself shows that we wear masks all the time. But acknowledging that, understanding that we are multifaceted, that we are creatures, we are beings that are able to live within nuance, and accepting that actually helps us on our own life journey. So my interest in personality is actually was originally around about self-help, and it evolved into building a framework that I believed gave people a map that they could then follow and then set their own destiny.
Okay, thank you very much, Aki. So for those hearing about it for the first time, what is Personality Peak and what gap are you trying to fill?
So the gap I've tried to fill is that when people take personality tests, they often say, what's next? I want to give not only the test and the insight, I want to show them that personality is a journey. It is not something that starts and ends with a quiz. That is your personality in the first place brought you to take that quiz. So you're already a version of you. What Personality Peak aims to is give you a real baseline in as close an accurate way as possible. So what we do is we use 6 dimensions and we use a percentage slider so you can exactly what percent you feel on that day answer that question. You can then track that over time. You can take additional, once you've got your base core archetype, you can then take additional quizzes such as how you handle dilemmas. There's also question and answers that give you the most detailed, what I believe to be one of the most detailed reports possible on your personality at that moment in time. And then ultimately we can do a phone call as well and discuss what that means to you, where you want to go, and some real nitty-gritty details. But fundamentally, what Personality Peak is for is to give people a map that they can then follow. However, the destination is completely up to the individual.
Okay, that's wonderful. So why is understanding your personality such a critical step in personal growth and self-mastery?
So personality is, I mean, it's how the world sees us. And even when we're alone, when the lights are off, when it's quiet, when nobody's watching, there is still the self, there is still the you. And personality is what interacts with the world as well. So it is actually absolutely critical that if you want to have a fulfilled life, you need to understand the self, because the only thing that we truly control is ourselves. There are things that influence us from outside. Of course there are. And we don't even know, you know, if for example, you were to win the lottery tomorrow, would you be the same person in a year's time than you are today? But it's almost the beauty with Personality Peak is it doesn't pretend to be the destination. It is part of the journey. And so the critical infrastructure that you need is there, but it's on you then to take that and apply it to your life, to your everyday, to apply the learnings and the teachings to things such as relationships, work, money, and family, even how you interact with your dog. It's all personality driven. And so therefore, what by the end of your entry point, you hope to have, even if you have a 5% better understanding than when you started, you're better off than you were. And then we'll come on the journey with you, or you can make your own way from there, but you need a map so you can start.
Okay, Aki, thank you very much for that. So my audience would like to know, those who are listening as well, they would like to know. Many people take personality tests but don't see real change. Can you tell them what they are getting wrong?
I'll be honest that the real change can never come from the test. And Personality Peak offers you a framework that you can begin a transformational journey. But you have to take self-responsibility. You have to take accountability. You have to know what you want to change, because it's not going to do it for you. There's a saying that you can take the horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You can treat a personality test, any of them, as a little bit as the water, and it's there, but you don't have to drink it. But even if you do, there is an ongoing thirst. There is an ongoing thirst, and that should never be quenched. So while personality tests can give you insight into your traits, it is up to you to know what to do with them. And if you don't know, to at least acknowledge areas that you could improve and then work towards that. Because life is all about improvement. It's about trial and error. It's about failure and success. And it is about just seeing the beauty in you. Because, as I've said, the only thing you truly have control of is yourself. And you have to take responsibility for that journey. So personality tests are only part of the puzzle. They're not the whole puzzle.
Okay, thank you very much, Arky. Let's move on to the next question I have for you. How can someone use personality insight as a tool for growth without limiting themselves or staying stuck in labels?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, you people get stuck all the time. Life life is moves forward, but stasis does exist. And you have to be careful with anything to use it as a tool. So, for example, my spanner tightens a nut, but it doesn't hammer nails into the wall very well. My hammer hammers nails into the wall incredibly well, but it doesn't tighten screws. And a personality test is one tool in your armory that you can use to know the self better, but to give you the starting point of identifying areas that you want to improve and then equipping yourself with the tools to do that, which is through lived experience, through challenge, through growth, through putting yourself into environments that you don't necessarily feel comfortable in. It's about the edge of where you want to be and then walking towards it, even if there is a small cost involved. Because on the other side, even if you don't get exactly where you want to be, you're not where you were. Now, I will say that you could also argue, like, well, what's the point? And that question is broader, because what is the point of anything? My argument is that by knowing the self, you can fulfill to the maximum the only thing you truly own, which is you. Now, by doing so, you actually will bring up people around you, because as you grow, others will grow. And so by understanding your personality, growing your personality, understanding your limitations and working towards improving them, not only do you build up the self, but you build up your community as well.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So let's move on to another one as well. Can you tell the audience you integrate Stoic philosophy into your work? How does Stoicism strengthen self-awareness and emotional control?
Yeah, this is a very good question, actually. So Stoicism for me was a really big turning point in my life. And what it did is it gave me a framework for loci of control of what I can actually control, what I can influence, and letting go of what I can't. So, what that actually means in practice is that you take responsibility maximally for the things that you are able to and are justified in doing so, taking responsibility for. So that might be doing a good job at work. It might be looking after your family. It might be being a good community member. It might be, looking after your environment. But it's not about taking on things beyond your station. You can't be responsible for other people's negativity. You can correct it the best you can, but only within your own framework. So for me, what Stoicism is about taking ownership of what you can control and letting go of what you can't control. And in doing so, you will find that you grow through it. It's also a state of reflection where you look at what you could have done better. And in every situation, how I approach it is I never, ever look to blame anyone else. I always look to what was the role I played and what could have I done differently. Because there's always a path that leads you there. And you might say, well, what if someone comes in and, attempts to steal from you? That is an external force, and you need to do what is necessary at that time. But you can only control what you do. You can't control the fact that it happens to you, and bad stuff happens every day. And therefore, with Stoicism, if you can utilize it well, it gives you a framework to not only grow but to thrive, because you take responsibility to the max for the things you are responsible for.
So What's one simple, practical way that someone can start becoming more self-aware?
Yeah. A self-awareness is a really interesting one because we all have spots, we all have blind spots that we don't see. But one thing I do is I'll often ask myself, how did that go? And what went well? And what could I do better? But it's more so than that. It's about reflecting on your capacity to have influenced the events. And often in areas where you could do better. So you might say, for example, you get asked a question, you could have answered better. Read more, research more, educate yourself. You prepare a meal, say a lasagna, for example, and it's burnt around the edges. Learn the process and do it better next time. But it is accepting that you will make mistakes. Other people will make mistakes. And also, we don't all see the world in the same way. And that is part of the rich tapestry of life. It's part of being human. And so even if somebody maddens you, even if somebody drives you crazy, you've got to try and see that there is a lesson in that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Arky. So I have another question here for you as well. This one is, how does deeper self-understanding improve the way we communicate and handle conflict in relationships?
Right. Well, I hope my wife's not listening. But no, relationships is a tricky one. So the way I've always seen relationships is a symbiotic relationship. So there has to be mutual benefit. And I've always maintained that I only have ownership of me and you have ownership of you, even to my wife, to my kids, that they are sovereign. They are beautiful in themselves. I've always made them aware that obviously the children, when they're now adults, so it's okay. When they're young, you obviously have to protect them. That's your duty. But this is the example with the wife. You can apply it to across the board. So own yourself, be willing to let go, appreciate in the moment what you've got, appreciate them for who they are, but understand that they are with you. And this applies to friends as well, because they choose to be with you, not because of an obligation, not because they feel they should, because they choose to. So I try to maximally seek mutual beneficial relationships, and ones of mutual respect, honor, loyalty. And when I say obedience, I mean obedience equally to one another. And so the secret for me to solid relationships is be willing to let go with a smile on your face, because you know while you were there, you did all you were capable of to ensure that that relationship was solid, robust, and as good as you could give, because life is only ever a series of moments. That is all it is, one moment after the next. And it's up to you in any given moment to enjoy it, but also be willing to let go. And by being willing to let go, you tend to be able to keep people because they choose to stay.
Okay, so you have mostly exhausted almost all my questions, but I still have like a couple more for you as well.
Sure.
So when people begin this journey, or those who are listening who wants to, they have it in mind to start this journey, can you let them know what are the most common blind spots or patterns they are going to uncover about themselves?
Yeah, I think that when we say the most common, firstly, I would just recommend if you're coming on the journey for the test on Personality Peak, I would recommend just take the test and digest the information. What I'd be hoping that you initially take from it is how you perceive different situations, and then how those situations that you perceive influence you. And then what I would like you to do is ask yourself, okay, which of these am I comfortable with? And then accept that you've already achieved a level that for this time being is adequate. And sometimes adequate is good enough. But the areas that you take that you question yourself, you're not clear on, you don't want to be that way. Because when you answer these questions, when you answer yourself, it is you against you. It is up to you to be as honest as possible to get the most out of these. It splits it down to the base percentage, like a basic percentage of what you believe to be there. And then you may be able to identify areas from that you want to be stronger in, you want to do better in, you want to change in. And we will provide a map. We'll provide a roadmap for you to start that journey. We'll give you everything you need to start, but it is up to you to put it into practice, into real life, and then apply other philosophies such as Stoicism to your life and utilize that framework as an opportunity for growth, but understanding there is no final destination. There is only a journey, and each journey is made up of those moments.
Okay, Arky. So my final question for you is this. For someone who wants to grow intentionally, but they feel stuck or unclear, because a lot of people are in this category. They always have it in mind that they want to grow. They're always looking for ways to grow intentionally, but they cannot seem to move past where they are. What do you think is the first step that they should take that will help them break out of being stuck or unclear? I will give them like a clarity to grow intentionally.
Okay, well, first of all, I want to say to these people, congratulations, because you have self-awareness. So you've realized that something in your life is wrong, and you've realized that something could be better, and you want to take steps to make that better. And I'll be honest, that is already admirable, because sometimes knowing that you need to change is the catalyst for change. You can walk around your entire life with your head in the clouds, but it gives you no space for growth. What you've done already is admirable because you've identified you need to change. Now, how you actually go out about and do it. Now, a lot of these self-help people will say, like, get up at 4 a.m. or, go for a run for 100 kilometers or, I don't know, just all this kind of like, blah, blah, this like, it seems easy, but it just isn't. It just isn't practical for everyone. What you need to do, something isn't right. Really narrow that down. Write it down and narrow down a small thing that you can change today. So narrow it down to something you can do right now, something you can change today, and then make that change. So that could be when you get out of bed in the morning and you have your cup of coffee, you put it straight, you wash the cup and put it away, whereas you normally throw it in the sink. And that's a really good one. So a good example would be is if you see a sink that's full of dishes, stop and wash it. And what that's doing is you actually get an outcome at the end of that. You get clean dishes, but you're also not walking past mess. And if you start applying that attitude to small things, say, for example, your car needs to be serviced, you service your car. Your house isn't in order, you better put it in order. Your child is giving you back chat, you explain to them in a collaborative way on a better way for them to communicate. There is no solid answer to this because you've already identified you need to change. Whatever that area is that you need to change, it is on you to start to initiate that in small ways. There doesn't have to be big leaps, but as I've said earlier, life is made up of a series of moments, and that is all we have. And it is on to you to identify what you need to change. And then in that moment or the next moment, make that change. And that, I mean, by make the change is don't walk past a dirty sock on the floor. And from there, extrapolate that out to giving you the life that you deserve.
Okay. Thank you very much, Aki. This has been a wonderful episode as well. Thank you for being my guest. So before you go, where can my audience learn more about you?
Thanks for that. So on personalitypeak.com, we've got all our socials in the bottom menu. You've got Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, the whole lot, LinkedIn, and the other area so Arky Jones is my nickname. That's what my friends call me. And as a podcast, I always like to think I'm talking amongst friends. But my name is Ralph K. Jones. If you just Google Ralph K. Jones and books, you'll see my books on Amazon as well. They were all written pre-AI, just to be clear. but my main focus for the last few years has been making sure people can understand themselves a bit better. And Personality Peak is the front door to a roadmap where you can begin the rest of your life.
Once again, thank you very much, Aki. This has been a powerful conversation on understanding who we are and how that shapes everything that we do. Thank you very much, and thank you for being my guest on this special episode.
Thanks again, mate. Thank you.
And to everyone who's listening right now, as Aki has said, the more you understand yourself, the less you are controlled by your habits, your emotions, and your patterns, and the more intentional your life becomes. Until next time, see you guys on another episode of Take Control or Be Controlled. Bye, guys.